What is the most misunderstood page in the Bible? I think I know what it is. I think it is the page between the Testaments, that blank page between the Old Testament and the New Testament. I think that's the most misunderstood page in the Bible because people do not understand the difference between the Old Covenant and the New Covenant. They don't even understand that we're under the New Covenant now and not the Old Covenant. They don't even understand the difference between the two, that you can't be under both of them at the same time. And I've said before, if people would read the book of Hebrews, if they would just read it in a modern translation, they would know that this is a completely different covenant. For example, Jesus is our high priest now. All right, the book of Hebrews teaches that Jesus is our high priest. But the priests of the Old Testament, in order to be the high priest, Aaron was from the tribe of Levi, and all the priests were from the tribe of Levi. So if the old covenant was still in effect, Jesus could not even be our priest because he was from the tribe of Judah. That point is made in Hebrews 7 and verse 12. He says, because where the priesthood is changed, there must of necessity be a changing of the law. If the old covenant is still in effect, Jesus is not your high priest. He's from the wrong tribe. So the new covenant has to replace the old covenant because we have a high priest who is from the tribe of Judah. That's something that you could understand by just reading the book of Hebrews. And I'm not being smart aleck when I say that. If people would just sit down, take an afternoon, and read the book of Hebrews, none of this would be as confusing. You'd know, you would understand everything about it, but you'd know you're under the new covenant and not the old covenant. Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 8 says that he has found fault with the old covenant, and since he has found fault with the old covenant, he has replaced it with the new covenant. Then he quotes from Jeremiah 31, where Jeremiah predicted that that day was going to come. He said that God said through the prophet Jeremiah, the days are coming when I will make a new covenant with the house of Judah and with Israel, and I'm going to change this covenant. And in Hebrews 8, he tells us what that is. It's the new covenant. Why? Because there was fault with the old covenant. Nobody could keep it. So in Hebrews 8:13, he says, in that he says a new covenant, he has made the first obsolete. New covenant. Listen to that word. Listen to that phrase, new covenant. That means that it's new, and it replaces the old. In that he says a new covenant, he has made the first obsolete. What's the Old Testament? It's obsolete. It's no longer in effect. Now, it has things for us to learn about Jesus from it, but we are not under it in any way, shape, or form. All right, and then you come to Hebrews 9:15, where it says, for this reason, Jesus is the mediator of the new covenant. He's the mediator of the new covenant. All right, so Jesus, if you're going to follow Jesus, and Jesus is going to be your Lord and your Savior and your Master, you're going to be under the new covenant, not the old one, because the old covenant was based on the law of Moses. And yet if people would just believe Moses, you know, he told the Pharisees, Jesus did, he said, if you believe Moses, you'd believe me. Well, Moses said in Deuteronomy 18:15 through 18, that there's a day coming when a new prophet will be raised up, and he's talking about Jesus, and when he comes, you listen to him. You don't listen to me anymore. So even Moses told you that when Jesus comes, the law of Moses is going to be taken out of the way. All right, but now people bring up things that Jesus said while he was on earth and the fact that he kept the law of Moses. He did keep the law of Moses because he was a Jew under the law of Moses. When did the new covenant go into effect? Hebrews chapter 9, verses probably 16 and 17 says that a testament is in force after men are dead. For where there is a new testament or a new covenant or a change in the law, there must be the death of the testator. In other words, just like a will today, a person while he's alive can make all kinds of changes to his will, but when he dies, his will goes into effect. It's the same way with the covenants. All right, while Jesus was alive, he was living under the law of Moses. But remember the night of his betrayal, he said when he instituted the Lord's Supper, this is my blood of the new covenant. In other words, he had to die to make a new covenant. And so when he died on the cross, that was the death of the testator. That was the death of the one who changed the covenants. Now, after Jesus died, there was a transition period where Jews continued to keep the law of Moses, but they were not allowed to bind it on Gentiles, okay? Because from the time Jesus died until the time the temple fell in AD 70, Judaism was still in operation, but not from God's standpoint. All right, so you could put it like this. From God's standpoint at the cross, the covenants changed, but he gave them time to adjust. In AD 70, when the temple fell, everybody knew that the old covenant was done away with. So at the cross, God took away the old covenant. But in 70, he let the world know that he took away the covenant. But the point is this: Gentiles were never under the law of Moses, and it is not for today. Okay, it has been taken away and replaced with a new covenant. Even Jewish Christians are no longer under the law of Moses. They're under the new covenant of Christ. Jews and Gentiles in the one body, that is the new covenant of Christ, and that is the only one in effect. If that's not true, you don't have a Savior, because he does not save you under the law of Moses. He is the Savior of those who are under the new covenant.